This exhibition, Dear Earth, Art and Hope in a Time of Crisis, been very much inspired by talking to writers, artists, thinkers, activists to gather in the information. And part of the process, Otobong, was speaking to yourself, where we very much talked about caring as a form of resistance, which very much formed the foundation of this show.
As human beings, we have things that we care for, to be able to survive and to be able to live and be on this planet. So the food systems, water bodies, trees, all the things that are around us, they should be things that we care for, because without them, we cannot even exist. The way we plant, the way we extract, the way we design what we take from the earth, we look for ways of accelerating, creating hybrids, creating structures that kind of exploit the aspects that we should be taking care of.
Your tapestry behind us here, Double Plot, done in 2018, is based on the foundations of a NASA, the solar system and constellations. But your work has multiple meanings of hope, of dependence, of codependence. Could you maybe expand on that notion of hope, but again, the kind of multiple meanings of that?
The work Double Plot was made in relation to thinking of what manifests in front of us, what we see. Using an image taken from NASA, which is one of the layers. This image was taken during the time of the protests at the Tahrir Square. When we look at the sky, we're looking at the past, 10,000 light years, you know, and what we're seeing now is not what it is, it's just manifesting to us now. So I was interested in that relationship of latency, dormancy, but if we're thinking of also people that go out to protest, or in French, la manifestation, something has already been brewing that is not visible, but the manifestation or the protest allows for the visibility of something that is not visible. The protest gives form. The light we look at, the sky, is the form of something that is not tangible, but it all of a sudden becomes tangible.
Something quite striking within your work is the figures. The heads are cut off.
Yes.
And I think there's strong notions of power. And I wonder if you could tell us about why that head is cut off. And can you tell us about how power, you interlay that in the tapestry?
The heads, for me, give too much information. We start thinking about race. We start thinking about if he's got a big nose or blue eye or red eyes. We start reading things that I feel that are not necessary. What I'm interested is in the performance, in the gesture. So if it stands strong, it kind of relates to I have the power, where this man here is maneuvering and manipulating a situation, in control of that situation. But we have the other hands, which are multiple groups of people who are trying to turn that and twist it in a different way. Within the tapestry, I was thinking of how do you show power and how do you also show collective power? And how those things are both constantly within a plot, and there are many plots being played, and I kind of called it the double plot because one has an intention and the other one does. And sometimes those intentions meet and they work, and sometimes they divert and they become problematic.
We have next to us a living but kind of naturally fallen tree.
Yes.
that will be part of the show. And I wondered from that very much notion of reframing from an artist's perspective a spirituality and a psychological element of repair or hope or resilience, and how our connection to nature, have we missed this? Do we need to reconnect?
We are connecting with nature, and with just the different ways in which we connect, because if we are extracting from a place, it's still a certain kind of connection. It's a connection, but a connection that is related to taking out and transforming, and we collectively use these materials even though we don't know where we come from. So we are connected in many ways, but we're also disconnecting in other ways. The disconnection is that we've disconnected to other life forms. We've disconnected to the way they exist on this planet. We are imposing our time on other timelines. A tree will live on for maybe 500 years. Can you imagine how many of my ancestors have died, and that tree is still there? A tortoise can live up to 300 years. Our timeline is so short. for me, it's interesting to think, how do we align with other timelines and give those timelines their own space to be? I'm not against the notion of taking out or using, because we need that, but I'm against the ways in which we do not think of how people, lands, water, all the things that surround us have their own lives and how to work with them. I read a story about the desert, and there are some seeds or plants that they stay dormant. They just go with the wind. And once the rain comes in the desert, this plant blossoms, throws out its seeds again, and then it waits for the next. And so it can stand extreme heat, but once it gets a bit of water, it pops out. And that for me is the place of hope. That we see that even though something might be looking extremely dried out, extremely in ruins and shambles, you still see that people resist in a certain way. People kind of fight and find a way to still be on the planet, to still work with it. And that for me is that moment when the little raindrops and things open and they flourish again and then they close again. And it's our awareness of that moment, that gap, or thinking of also the landscape, the oasis, that within this dry zone you'd find water, you'll find lush, you'll find something amazing, and how to preserve that and how to work with that timeline. It's the main question.
With all your practice, from poetry to tapestry to film to performance, it's a constellation to show us alternatives of hope, alternatives of ways of being, but to spark our imagination into a better way forward.